And, you know, we've seen Kevin Rand has some upsets over the course of the day, most notably being Ricky Sitter yesterday. 2-0, both games on the draw. Ricky playing Mono Blue Devotion, Mono Red's worst matchup in terms of decks you typically see in Standard.
So will it be Selden with blue-white control, a deck that we have seen many players have success with on the Open Series, most notably Reed and Duke, making the top 8 of our Season 2 Invitational? Or will it be Mono Red Aggro going for a three-peat? Tom the Boss Ross winning our Season 2 Invitational, and then Festus Resendez winning our Standard Open to kick off Season 3.
Would be a really nice initial push for Mono Red Aggro in this format. A deck that is pretty easy to adapt to, so I'd be surprised if it was sustained success.
I'm actually generally surprised to see this in the finals of this tournament, and the main reason for that is because we looked at a lot of deck lists this weekend and sideboards, and people were just hating.
A lot of Fiend Slayer Paladins.
Yes.
A lot of Nyx Fleece Rams, Drowns and Sorrows, Varika's Cures, Boros Reckoners. We saw more of those cards than we've seen in the last couple months. But here it is in the finals yet again.
It's time to begin the finals here of our Standard Open in Las Vegas. Don't forget, we will have a trivia question for you guys. It'll be a 12-month giveaway that we will announce at the conclusion of our final round. Then we'll have a winner's interview in the sideboard. Then we'll take a break, and then it's time for legacy action. But it looks like Keith Selden going to take a mulligan. If you're Kevin, probably a mental fist bump.
It looked like Keith laid down 6 lands and a Font of Fortunes there, which
Not
is
the best hand I've ever seen.
I like the mulligan there.
That's tight mulligan.
Got to find some stuff to do.
Doing so many Scrylands were there, though. May have kept.
I believe the answer may have been 0.
I may have mulliganed.
Yeah, you gotta let that one go.
Maybe. Depends how I feel.
Yeah. How do you feel about the top couple cards of your deck? You know, that's really the question here.
Well, if it was on Magic Line, I would have kept.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I win, it makes for a great story, and if I lose, I can just complain about bad luck.
Yeah, I can get, my opponent's right there. You can't even see me, so there's really no consequences for complaining.
It makes my behavior certainly okay.
Yeah. It is an accountability-free zone. You just do whatever you want.
It sure is.
You're going to imagine your opponent as being your mortal nemesis.
Yep.
No matter who they are.
That's correct.
You lose, you know, just go ahead and scream at them. It's their fault after all.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if
you could have mulliganed.
If they weren't there, you would have won, right? They would have just timed out.
In theory, that's true.
It's their fault, you know?
Oh, this looks like a no blue hand.
It does have 3 lands and a Banishing Light, so there's at least something going on here.
Yeah, be a little quicker to the ground than that. This is a Rakdos Kakla. It's going to be unleashed, so a 2-2 right away. Elspeth's not the ideal draw. There's a Mutavault, pass the turn back. I'm telling you, man, it's so important for Rand to break serve here. Going to start by attacking for 2.
I think we may see it in this game unless Keith draws very well. I mean, he doesn't have blue mana or Jace or Supreme Verdict.
Burning Tree Emissary. Oh, boy. And now Firefish Striker, and I don't think he has a D-Sphere either.
And Kevin's draw is not shabby. Not a bad opening.
Another Plains. Take a look at the Firefish Striker. This is going to get ugly.
Yeah. Not only is he missing blue, even if he had blue mana, he wouldn't have any of the cards. He doesn't have any of the cards he needs.
And there's a Banishing Light to take down that Firefish Striker. That's out of the way. These Burning Tree Emissaries and Rakdos Kakla are going to come to play. We might even get more damage here in just a moment. See Rand doing the math.
When you see red guy tapping the table like that, it's not a good sign.
You're dead.
It's not a good sign. He's subtracting from your life total. That's what's happening right now. Right now, Kevin just needs to, you know, we know on Keith's side he has nothing going on here. Even if he draws blue next turn, he's not back in the game. But Kevin has to respect the possibility of what happens if next turn he plays an island and Supreme Verdict. What can I afford to leave behind?
I think the answer is quite a few things. He's just going to attack her for 6. Maybe going to use a Maka, so that's going to make it 9. Selden's going to go down to 9.
And I like this fine. In the event that Keith untaps with a blue source and has Supreme Verdict, Kevin has Legion Loyalist and Ash Zealot left over to pierce, so that's not a terrible base to build back from.
I think the draw may have been Supreme Verdict for the turn, but there's no island there. You just have to pass the turn back. Rand will take a draw here in just a moment. Take this copy of Titan Strength. That's a good one.
And I think this is a lock because there's nothing Keith can have here. Kevin doesn't have to play around anything. No last breaths in the list, so.
Titan strength, that is it. Kevin Rand wins game number 1 in very impressive fashion over Keith Selden. Mono red, 1 game away from a three-peat here in our standard open.
And merciless. I mean, not a lot of time to recover there if you're Keith. The deck's so fast. That was, I think, turn 4. And that was turn 4 with, Kevin playing around some things.
Yeah.
And getting hit with a removal spell on turn 3.
This is true. Quickly, we're going to do our trivia. You've got the rules, I've got the question.
All right, he's going to ask you a question. Tweet your answer at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct responses, one will be selected at random for a full year of Star City Games premium content. Don't worry about submitting first, just submit accurately. And please note that this contest is run at the full discretion of StarCityGames.com, and Twitch is in no way affiliated with giveaways on the stream.
Simple stuff here. Next weekend, the Open Series comes to Portland, Oregon. I'll be doing coverage, and I'll be joined by somebody. The question is, who will be my partner in crime next weekend in the booth from Portland, Oregon? If you can name that person, hashtag the answer with SCG Premium, and make sure you are following at SCG Live. We'll announce the winner at the conclusion of what looks to be a pretty quick match.
Well, so far. I mean, maybe.
Maybe.
What's nice about this matchup is even when blue-white control wins, the games are usually pretty fast.
Yeah, they establish control on turn 4, turn 5, and then there's no coming back for the red deck.
Correct.
But for the red deck, they have to keep the ball rolling, which is what Rand was able to do game 1. You take a look at Selden's sideboard here. 2 copies of Archangel Athena, Banishing Light, and a Blind Obedience, 2 Celestial Flare, a Deicide, a Spell, 2 Gainsay, 3 copies of Last Breath, Negate, and a Quicken. A lot of nice options.
He's got a lot to bring to the table in this matchup. The 2 Archangels, the Banishing Light, the 2 Celestial Flares, the 3 copies of Last Breath. I think even the Quicken against a deck with so much haste, all very powerful options for him to bring in here.
On the other side, you see Rand. He's got 4 Eidolon of the Great Revel, 2 Searing Blood, 4 Skullcrack, 3 Harnessed by Force, 2 Mizium Warriors. I imagine that we like probably some number of Skullcracks and Eidolons.
I think you're going to see the full 10 come in here of Eidolon, Skullcrack, and 2 copies of Mizium Mortars as well, because he's playing against Archangel. And he knows he's playing against Archangel.
Is it okay to just be dead to Archangel, though? Because, like, Mortars is pretty bad if they don't draw Archangel, and it's just okay if they do, like, depending on the board position.
It is a pretty big risk to bring in Mortars, but I don't think you can just say, I'm just dead to it, because it's going to come up a lot. That's been my experience. I can respect saying, I'm just going to try to, I'm going to try to ignore it. The fact that you have Legion Loyalist plus pump spells means that maybe there's a better rationale for not bringing in Mortars, because you have the upside of they play Archangel, you attack with Legion Loyalist, they presumably have to block, and you can just kill it for free with one of your pump spells. It depends really what he has to take out here. He has 2 copies of Searing Blood and 3 Shocks that can pretty easily leave the deck. I think that Foundry Street Denizen is pretty poor against blue-white. It compels you to overextend into Supreme Verdict. It matches up poorly against Jace. So if we consider those slots to be 9 flexible slots there, that means you get 4 Skullcracks, 4 Eidolons, and maybe 1 Mortars is reasonable to bring in.
I am always just a little bit wary of Mortars in these type of matchups. I understand the idea, of course, is when they do play their trump card, which is Archangel, you can kill it and keep attacking. But, there are those situations where maybe they don't draw Archangel, you draw Mortars, or they draw Archangel, you don't draw Mortars, then it gets out of range too quickly.
My experience in the matchup is, you play a lot of matchups against decks like blue-white where they have Supreme Verdict and you leave some stuff in reserve, and, you try to fire back after the fact. I don't think that works against blue-white, generally speaking, because your cards aren't that powerful, and if you're playing around Supreme Verdict, you often lose to Jace instead. So the way that I like to play the matchup is usually just jam everything onto the table as fast as possible. Don't worry about leaving stuff in reserve, because what you leave in reserve doesn't matter anyway. And if you're playing the game that way, you're more likely to be able to afford to have a mulligan in your hand, the Mizium Mortars. And the upside of the Mortars is when they tap out for Archangel and you have a board, you win the game. So I can understand not bringing it in, but the way that I approach the matchup, I'm not trying to slow play my stuff anyway. So I don't mind having the dead card as much, because you're not trying to fight them on that access anyway. Just dump your stuff on the table and hope it's good enough.
Yeah, this is no sort of game that you can pace. You just put everything out there, hope they don't have Verdict, or hope you can minimize the impact of Jace and just move forward.
Like, Keith did nothing, was missing blue mana. Kevin had a very explosive start, and he was still in a position on that last turn where he may have lost his Supreme Verdict if it came up. Now, if Keith had blue mana and had Supreme Verdict. So This is not a matchup where you can afford to slow pace your threats. You had to beat Jace alongside Supreme Verdict, so generally speaking, I like just flooding the board as much as possible.
Well, game number 2 going to be underway here in just a moment. Keith Selden will be on the play. If you're rooting for Mono Red, it was very important for you to break serve there, which Kevin Rand was able to do.
Yeah, getting to be on the play for a theoretical third game is a huge deal.
So Selden going to take a look at a hand here. I think that may be okay, I see 2 lands. I think one of them is a temple. So it looks like it's going to be a keepable hand here. We'll see what Rand is able to find.
Yeah, this looks like a good but not great hand here for Keith.
Well, both players will keep. Selden going to take a look at the top card. That one goes to the bottom very quickly. Rand will take a draw. It's a copy of Eidolon. Does he have a 1? You have to imagine he does. And it's a Founder's Chief Denizen. So many 1-drops in this deck. I think he's had 16.
Yeah, he has a lot.
It's an island. Simply a passing of the turn, it looks like. Rand draws a mountain for the turn. Let's see if he wants to lead with Eidolon on turn 2, or maybe something else.
I like Eidolon on 2. It's the best spot to do it. You get to keep your haste creature in reserve. It's pretty reasonable next turn that Keith plays Detention Sphere or Banishing Light.
It's going to be a Burning Tree Emissary. That's going to get syncopated. So Denizen will continue to just be a 1. Pass the turn back. And no third land.
It appears as though Keith has left the Aetherling in his deck, which would be the first card I would sideboard out in this matchup.
I don't think I could reach any quicker for it.
Yeah. You can win the game with Elspeth or just revving for a couple points.
As long as you get to turn 5 or 6, you just win with anything.
Yes,
just win at your
you win
leisure.
with anything.
Mutavaults are fine.
And in fact, Aetherling is the type of threat that you can tap out for and die, because it only blocks one thing.
I think we might have a 3-peat here, my friend.
It's a really good start for Mono Red, that's for sure. And Keith's hand is a mess, too. I mean, it needs running lands, I think, to be even functional.
There's a Firefish Striker. Trigger, of course, from the Eidolon is going to put Rand down to 18, but he doesn't care.
No. Everyone remembers their own Eidolon trigger when they're winning.
I guess that's actually true, yeah.
That's just a rule. Oh, yeah, I take 2.
You take 200. I take 2.
Very aggressive play here, but sensing weakness from Keith, I think.
I actually like that play a lot.
Yeah.
Just trying to get him dead. Scry is important. You know, if you don't believe your opponent has last breath, you just rock and roll.
Or Azorius Charm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some cards that definitely penalize him here, but
Island.
and now it's tough for Keith to even, cast Banishing Light that turn because of the Eidolon. And I think that's a Skull Crack, and if that is,
Then that is.
That might be it.
This is an Ash Zealot. Rand's going to take 2. He's going to trigger the Denizen. Come in here for 8. This is a Titan Strike for the W.
He is shocked. I mean, he's got everything. He can just pass. He can just pass and say go. He does not have to blink right now.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually doing anything is a risk.
That's a shock, and that is going to do it. Mono Red aggro in the hands of Kevin Rand is going to defeat Keith Selden, and it's a 3-peat for the Mountains.
And 3 different builds of Mono Red aggro as well. This, I mentioned